Hello USC fans, I'm Chris Trevino with USCfootball.com. I'm here with R.J. Abeytia. We are coming to you from USC. It is day 2 of USC's spring practice, a Saturday morning, and it's a full practice. We got to see our second full practice under Lincoln Riley, so very exciting. Now I just want to note, we are under certain restrictions. We cannot talk about certain things, formations, specifics on who's playing where. We can't really talk about who was with the first team or the second team, but we can give general impressions. And we're going to start off today, RJ, by talking about your top performers that you saw from today's practice.
I think the first name that I'd go with would probably be Zachariah Branch. I thought he made, again, not too much detail, but I thought he made a really nice touchdown catch on a ball from Miller Moss. I think it stands out a little bit because if you think back to the Holiday Bowl and maybe during the season, there were kind of some 50-50 balls that he wasn't coming down with. So really nice to see on a couple occasions today. I felt like he won some 50-50 passes today. So I think I'd start with him, the first name off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think that's a great one to start with. I'll throw another receiver out there, Mekhi Lemon. Zachariah Branch, Jacoby Lane, Deuce Robinson, those guys get a lot of the hype and buzz going into the season, but Mekhi Lemon is the guy who we saw perform well in the Holiday Bowl after playing cornerback for most of the season due to injury, but his buzz is building, and he looked really good today, and a guy who can maybe even lead this team in receptions or compete to lead the team in receptions or yardage. He had some really nice plays throughout the practice, including one-on-ones, had some really crisp route running, just looked really smooth, confident out there. I think Mekhi Lemon is in for a big season this year.
Yeah, I would agree, and with him, it's a little bit of the subtle things. I think number one, there's a clear sense of confidence from Miller Moss when he throws him the ball, but also just his ability to find space and his ability to just know where the open areas are on the field. We saw that a bunch of times today. I thought he just looks really comfortable moving out there, and he kind of knows where his yards are in the offense, so to speak. So yeah, I think from what we saw, I think the early hype on him is validated through what we've seen so far.
And he's got that dog in him. That's what a lot of people say about him. A little bit of that Amon-Ra-esque, a little bit when you watch him play. So always like to see a receiver come out with that. Let's go to the defensive side of the ball, and then I think maybe my top performer that I saw, or someone that opened my eyes a lot, just because he's a newcomer, Greedy Vance, the transfer from Florida State. I think you would agree with me that he was one of our top performers, but just really sticky in coverage, and he looked confident out there, even though he was picking up a new defense. He is a veteran. He's coming from Florida State, where they were the ACC champions last year, should have been in the college football playoff. So he's a veteran guy, has a lot of games under his belt, and you saw that on the field. He was just very confident out there running in one-on-ones and with the team periods.
Yeah, and I think you can actually extend that to the secondary. I think everything you just said more or less applied to the bulk of what we saw from the secondary's play today, and that's good for a couple reasons. The obvious reason, first of all, just being better. Any level of the USC defense being better is an encouraging thing, but I also think there's been a lot of hype. We've heard a lot about how much better the secondary was. Even from Miller Moss himself has not missed a chance to talk about the night and day difference, and I honestly think we saw that today. I thought there was a lot less airspace out there. I thought there was a lot more passes contested. I thought the communication was better, and you can tell, they brought in a veteran group of guys, and you can see it in the physicality. I think, conversely speaking, I think the young wide receivers probably need that right now, because I think that's an area where they can be a little bit better. But the secondary was coordinated, they were physical, they were competitive, they looked better. And I think, again, if there's an area of the field, if there's an area of the defense where we're confident right now about improvement, I think it's clearly the secondary.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, just because we've talked about how we feel the secondary is going to be better with Doug Belk, with a Danton Lynn taking over that room as a defensive coordinator. We feel that confidence, and that's why practice like this is so important for us to just see it fully out in the field. We can't get that from watching stretching and some individual drills, but to see it in team periods and one-on-ones, you saw more confidence, you saw more communication, you saw more physicality. AKA like a Greedy Vance is not afraid to go up against anyone in those reps. So I think that's a really great point. That's why this practice was important, so we can get some impressions and back up what our feelings are going into it. Any other big takeaways you saw from? We got to see a lot of new stuff, or new for us, some more different kind of drills up close, and a lot of special teams today.
I think probably the two standouts. I think number one, special teams, and We're not trying to trigger any fans out there, not trying to generate any throwbacks to the Clay Helton era. But look, special teams is an area where they have to be better.
Yeah.
And so it's good that on day 2, it's on the agenda. It's not something that's being glossed over. And I think the other thing, Lincoln Riley, talking about things that we heard and had not seen, Lincoln Riley talked about how putting Luke Heward over there with the quarterbacks would free him up to move around. And we saw that today. Lincoln, there was a quarterback individual session, and then the bulk of the special teams was Lincoln supervised and Lincoln participating and supervising. So I think, it's a little thing, but you got to start somewhere. And so I thought that was a really good takeaway. And then the other thing is, some of the drills we got to see. I think Matt Entz, for those of you obviously who weren't there, Matt Entz coaches pretty much exactly like you think he coaches, and in a good way. I think there was also, not just sunshine either. I think there was a lot of attention to detail. I thought little mistakes on an individual rep, he did not let them go. And I thought we kind of saw that in general from the coaches from group to group.
Yeah, it was really fun watching super up close Matt Entz work, because I think a lot of fans are excited about him, what he brings, just that kind of old school, Midwest kind of Big Ten feel, especially just that linebacker room, which needs a lot of improvement. But, based on what we saw in the spring game, it looks like they're getting better. And out there, we saw them communicating a lot. They're rotating a bunch of different guys in. They have a lot of options between Eric Gentry and that 7-foot wingspan, Mason Cobb looking for a bounce back year, and then Easton coming over from Oregon State. Desmond Stevens is also a freshman early enrollee who I think we're impressed with as a guy, they signed super late in the recruiting class, but based on him coming in early, he might be making a jump as well this fall, and maybe he's going to be able to contribute this upcoming season.
Yeah, and it was a comment that our own Gerard Martinez made today too, is looking at the linebacker group from top to bottom, it looks like a linebacker group. It looks like you can see they all look like linebackers. They all look like real players, and that's maybe not something you can say about every single position group for USC, but no, I think physically the linebackers look good. And there was a lot of teaching. There was a lot of why are we running it this way? Why are we doing it this way from Matt Entz? And it seemed like the players were picking up on that. So yeah, definitely that group stood out, but I think the teaching and the coaching and the focus on detail stood out for us from the coaching standpoint.
As we wrap it up here, I just want to mention a couple of more highlights that we saw. Woody Marks had a really nice touchdown catch and diving in the end zone. Big playmaker. He's a good receiver. Almost, if you watch him, it's like he is a receiver. Keely Arnold had a nice interception, a diving interception, and there was an interception to end the final team period. Didn't quite see who it was. It was on the far side, behind a lot of bodies, but some plays were made overall throughout the practice. Anything else you want to add here, Roger, before we wrap up?
No, I think it lived up what you said. Again, the biggest thing today was that I think a lot of the talk showed up on the field. Now, obviously, this is the unpadded. I think the second unpadded, so I think the real stuff starts now. But, Easton Mascarenas Arnold said to me on media day, he's like, the best thing about the situation right now is that when the offense makes a mistake, we make them pay. When we make a mistake, they make us pay. And it was like that today, for better, and I think largely for better at this stage in training camp. I don't think there is a for worse at this point. You kind of want to see that.
Absolutely. I'm Chris, that's RJ. For more coverage of USC football, go to uscfootball.com and the Peristyle. We'll see you next time.